Here we have the team from the film Mr. Turner with us. Hello, Mike Leigh. Welcome. Welcome to your actor and your actresses. Welcome, Dorothy Atkinson, Marion Bailey, Timothy Spall. Welcome to Cannes. This is the first film in competition this year. Mike Leigh, you are opening the competition. You have been here before. You received the most prestigious Golden Palm in the past. How do you feel coming back to Cannes?
Very excited. It's great. And it's great to have the privilege of opening the competition. It's great.
Alors vous arrivez avec un film somptueux.
So your film is sumptuous, a historical film. It's a story of a painter. Why did you make this particular film? Do you feel some kind of link with Turner?
Well, I think we all feel a link with Turner. People have suggested that this is, for me, an autobiographical film. Right. It isn't. It's a film about one of the greatest painters of all time and the greatest English painter. A fascinating character, which is what Tim has put flesh to, and a man who really was a pioneer and a revolutionary painter.
Pourquoi vous lancez dans ce film-là? Parce que c'est un film
Why have you
ambitieux,
got involved in this film? It's very ambitious. You needed a lot of funding. The decor is wonderful. There's great work on the lighting with your cinematographer. Why did you choose to embark on this adventure, which couldn't have been easy?
No, but then movie making is not easy anyway. Any film you make is not easy. And this felt like a really important film to make and a great idea for a film, really.
Vous avez tout de suite pensé à
You immediately thought of Timothy Spall to play the role because you often work with the same actors and actresses. Did you say, I can make this film because Timothy will be ideal in the role?
Yes, of course. And he was ideal, and he is ideal, yeah.
Comment vous avez abordé ce rôle?
How did you broach the role, Timothy? How did you work to prepare to play this man who kind of grunts and shuffles around? How did you prepare yourself? What references did you use?
Well, I read about 5 or 6 biographies, and then I read around him and about who he was influenced by. Read as much as I could about his personal life, about his professional life. Difficult thing about him, he was a very private man and a man of mystery. But we delved deep, and we all worked together as a team and we shared the research, all the cast in certain places, certain people in their own compartments. And it was trying to unlock the key of the man was through, obviously through the use of research, but also for investigation with the process, the way that Mike works with his cast.
Est-ce que c'est un rôle qu'on trouve aussi en soi-même en partie?
Is this some kind of role which you can delve into yourself to find? You are a great artist, as Turner was an artist. Are there some points that you share? The way you approach your work?
Well, I think we share quite a lot in the fact that we're both little, fat, funny-looking men. So that took care of itself. But the great thing about when you work with Mike is that you separate yourself completely from the character and you isolate it and you make it its own. But of course, you're the person who's the salve, so therefore attributes that come from your soul as much as his are in there, and you use your own soul to serve the soul you're trying to create. You know?
And he did learn painting for 2 years.
Yeah, Mike asked me to start painting 2 years before we even got anywhere near rehearsing. And we rehearsed for 6 months, so...
Vous avez répété pendant 6 mois?
So you rehearsed for 6 months. Did you go and watch him when he was painting? Did you take a
bit?
Did you go and look at the paintings?
Yes, a bit. But the important thing is he was doing it for him so that he could do the work, you know. Yes, yes.
Les deux personnages féminins qui
The
sont là
two
sont
female characters are wonderfully played by Marion and Dorothy. They're the shadow and the light of this painter. How would you define the two women, Mike Leigh, before we hand the mic to the ladies?
Well, I mean, that's a very good way of putting it. You know, this poor woman, Hannah, who is his housekeeper for many years, lives in his shadow, and you know, she's sort of part of the family, and she is, I suppose, in many ways used and abused by Turner. And then here, suddenly, he has this very, I suppose, very positive relationship with this quite down-to-earth practical working class landlady in a seaside town, you know, and that changes his life. And of course, the important thing is that he kept the one secret from the other, you know.
Marion Bailey, comment vous avez abordé
Marion Bailey, how did you broach your character?
Well, like Tim, I read as much as I could, and we had a wonderful researcher, Jackie Riding, working with us, and not a lot is known about Mrs. Booth. So there was some scope for imagination, and I read as much as I could about the seaside town, which is Margate in Kent in England, and for a short while, you know, I could think of nothing else but facts about the seaside town. But really, I was able to use my own imagination, and of course, working with Mike.
It's got a historical background, but in the end, we make these characters up. We draw all the research, but in the end, to make them live in front of the camera, you have to create characters, and that's what these guys are so good at doing, you know.
Can I just add a little, before Dorothy speaks, a little fact? The seaside boarding house where Turner lived with Mrs. Booth and met and fell in love with her, my mother lived exactly in a flat in exactly the same place in Margate for 10 years, with exactly the same views, exactly the same position. Unfortunately, Margate has changed, so we had to go somewhere else that looked more Victorian.
Where Mrs. Booth lived is now, in fact, a very good museum, art gallery in Margate. So, yeah.
C'est extraordinaire tout ça.
How very interesting. Dorothy, you say very little in the film. We read what you're going through in your face, in your body, which is becoming misshapen.
Yes.
How did you prepare?
Well, I did quite a lot of physical stuff anyway, and I just kind of put that into practice. And working with Mike got to a place where it was believable and not too uncomfortable, although I did have quite a bad shoulder for a while. But that's fine. And yeah, just working along with Mike and going through those processes.
I mean, the great thing is, for all these characters, is, you know, there are actors who will come to Cannes in the next 2 weeks who are vain. Good actors, but vain. These guys aren't vain. These are character actors. They can play people who are maybe ordinary or grotesque or, you know, not gorgeous, and they bring humanity to that. And that's what it's all about, basically. They are actually gorgeous themselves.
Yeah, it's very liberating to play someone who's, you know, doesn't say much.
Et c'est vrai qu'on ne peut pas parler de la fin du film.
We won't talk about the end of the film, because what you add at the end of the film is absolutely heartbreaking. It's something which I really enjoyed about the film is the relationship with the father. The actor who plays the role of the father isn't here today, but were you interested in that relationship between the son and the father? Quite rare, even for an artist in general, because parental relationships can often be a bit full of turmoil, but here there's a really strong love.
This is the fascinating thing about this relationship. It was very warm, very close. His father really cared for him. I mean, as you will gather when you look at the film, historically, it's a fact that the mother was mad and wound up in a mental home, in an asylum. And but the relationship between father and son was beautiful, and we really felt we could explore that.
Yeah, I think it was integral because of his unfortunate mother's mental condition, which we've gleaned and supposed that it was made their life quite difficult, because his father was a barber and had a public persona, and I think she was quite an embarrassment to them and and I think Turner never really was frightened of her, and I think his father as a child protected him from his mother, and he spent a lot of his time as a child, from the age of 3 almost, sitting and drawing in his father's barbershop, hairdressers, and I think his father watched his back as a child, so this sensation of his father being both his mother, his father and his assistant is quite extraordinary. So when he loses him, it's like half of his soul has been ripped out.
Vous reprenez les mêmes comédiens, vous êtes fidèle
You
aussi
like to work with the same actors and also with your cameraman, with your cinematographer, with Dick Pope. How do you work with Dick Pope? Did you try to find the same light as in Turner's paintings?
Yes. Yes, the inspiration for the look of the film, which Dick Pope has done such a magnificent and wonderful job with, is very much Turner's paintings, the look of the paintings, the look of the period. And while I've worked with Dick Pope for a very, very long time, and we have a great rapport, and, you know, we share all kinds of tastes in film, in art, in Chinese food, all sorts of things.
Une dernière question. Il y a quelque chose de
Final
particulier avec
question.
cet artiste,
There's something
c'est qu'il
quite
est
unique
très
about the
reconnu de son
artist.
temps, de son
He was
vivant.
well known when he was alive. He experienced glory.
Ça vous a plu aussi de
Did you
rencontrer
like
quelqu'un comme ça
that
qui,
side of his life? Did you want to show
finalement, a une
that
sorte de
glorious side of his
reconnaissance,
life?
n'est pas dans la souffrance, parce qu'on
He
voit
wasn't
souvent les
suffering, because we
artistes
often
dans la
see
souffrance, les
painters
impressionnistes,
who
mais souvent,
live
on
difficult
reconnaît
lives,
forcément
but that
la
wasn't the case for Turner.
I think it's a debate whether, in the film, whether, I mean, I think he does suffer because he's so committed to his art. I don't think it would be true to say, I think it would be a wrong, to give a wrong impression of the film to say that he doesn't in some way suffer. But you're right in the sense that it isn't about the suffering artist as such. And what we see in the film, and indeed what happened to him, was that he was both celebrated and also reviled, because as time went on, his painting became more radical, and people just didn't understand it in the middle of the 19th century. The fact is that he was anticipating Impressionism, and he was anticipating abstraction, post-Impressionism, and 20th century art. And I think that's what's really interesting about it.
Indeed, but I think he had to go through a lifelong process. He had to be able to paint like all the grand masters before all the constrictions within himself loosened, and then as he got older and the construction of the constriction broke down, that is when he found his final original voice. And that's when it was, and I think in a sense it was when he was at his most happiest, but also when he smelt his own mortality.
Tout à fait. Merci beaucoup. Merci.
Thank you so very
Thank
much
you.
for Mike Leigh, Timothy Spall, Dorothy Atkinson, Marion Bailey for coming in. Mr. Turner, here is the trailer for the first film in competition at the 67th Festival.